SpaceX has been working with Jared Isaacman, who's a billionaire, on a flight called the Polaris Dawn, the first extravehicular activity for a private space flight. Now, this is going to be a huge deal in the spaceflight community because it shows that things that NASA used to do and governments used to do, well, normal people can do that too. And Jared is an adventurer. He's also done the Inspiration 4 mission where he went up on a Falcon 9 and in a Crew Dragon orbited the Earth. The Polaris Dawn is going to be really cool, but it's been postponed a little bit. I want to show you what this is. Right here, no earlier than March 2023 now. Before it was by the end of this year, but they're not going to make it. They just don't have enough time by the end of this year, and it could be numerous things. Could be that the flight team isn't ready. Could be that the crew capsule isn't quite ready either, because they have to make huge modifications to the Dragon capsule. As you can see from this graphic up above, they have to open up the top of this Crew Dragon with ways for the people inside the Crew Dragon to get out of the Crew Dragon, and also an umbilical so they can have some way to breathe when they're in space, and also the other systems that are in their suits. Those all need to be attached to the Crew Dragon, and they have to make huge modifications to the ship in order to do that. So postponing it a few months till March of 2023, that's totally fine. This is the Polaris Dawn mission, and it's going to be launching from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So you know it's going to be a spectacular launch, and it's going to be one of those things that goes down in the history books as the first of its kind, because it's the first private EVA. So that means that somebody paid for this flight, and it's not being funded by the government. And there's another private flight coming up that's really, really interesting. And then there's a few things that I want to talk about here because it's a weird one, but also a really cool one. And it is a Starship flight. Starship's second commercial space flight around the moon. Dennis Tito, who's a billionaire, he's already been to the space station, did a mission up there, paid for it himself, went up on the Soyuz rocket, and did everything on his own. He's 82 years old now, right? And they want to send him up to orbit the moon, go around the moon and come back within the next few years. He's going to be like 85 if this actually happens on time. So if this doesn't happen on time, he's going to be 87, 88 years old. He's going to fly to the moon. This is an insane amount of trust that Dennis Tito has in SpaceX to get this done. Let's read from the press release here on SpaceX's site. Dennis and Akiko Tito are the first two crew members announced on Starship's second commercial space flight around the moon. This will be Dennis's second mission to space after being the first commercial astronaut to visit the International Space Station in 2001. And Akiko will be among the first women to fly around the moon on a Starship. Tito's joined the mission to contribute to SpaceX's long-term goal to advance human spaceflight and help make life multiplanetary. So they're paying for this on their own. They're just giving SpaceX money, giving Elon Musk money to do this trip around the moon. Dennis is in his 80s. I give him credit. Like, that's pretty amazing for an 80-year-old person to want to get on a rocket, and two, want to fly around the moon. Everybody wants to fly around the moon, right? Like everybody from that era up until now has always been like, hey, when can I be an Apollo astronaut? When can I go to the moon? I've been wanting to do this my whole life. And Dennis Tito sees this opportunity where, look, there's one thing that can do this, and it's a Starship at this point. Can you get down there with an Orion capsule? Nope. No, it's not. Like, that's why SpaceX has the HLS mission in the bag with NASA, because NASA contracted them to take a Starship to the surface of the moon, right? And this is the only ship that can do it. And NASA isn't going to give Dennis Tito a trip around the moon. It's just not going to happen, because they don't do that kind of thing. They don't do private space flight. SpaceX can do it. They have the technology. They have the infrastructure. They have the people in place. They have the money to do this. And Dennis Tito also paid them for 2 seats, Kiko and Dennis, to fly around the moon and back. So this is going to be pretty intense flight, right? So it's going to be, how many days did they say? Fly within 200 kilometers of the moon's surface, complete a full journey around the moon before safely returning to Earth. This mission is expected to launch after the Polaris program's first flight of Starship and Dear Moon. So let's go back to the Polaris program real quick. So we got Polaris Dawn. That's the first one, right? And then we have the Polaris program. This is the whole thing. Like, this is the big enchilada here. You orbit the Earth in a starship, and there's going to be numerous variants of a starship. Now, will you orbit the Earth in a regular starship with a regular cockpit? You know, like with basically a space traveler's cockpit, or will they modify it for a future moon mission? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think they're going to they'll have the moon variant cockpit, or do you think they're going to have the space tourist cockpit on the first Polaris Dawn mission? So let's take a look. Polaris program basically it's a program where they fund all these flights to space for private people, you know, people that are part of Jared Isaacman's circle, people outside his circle, basically paying for these seats to do really cool missions. And the mission two, Polaris Mission 2, building upon the Polaris Dawn, this mission will continue to expand the boundaries of future human spaceflight missions, in-space communications, and scientific research. So we don't know much about this yet, right? But it's going to basically set them up for Mission 3, which is the first human spaceflight on Starship. That's crazy cool. The world's first reusable transportation system designed to carry both crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the moon, and Mars and beyond. So basically, what they're doing here is they're testing this out before the Dear Moon mission. So sending people to orbit with Mission 3 of the Polaris program. We're all tying this back up to the Polaris program. We're going to move on to Dear Moon in a little bit. We're going to send people to orbit the Earth in a Starship for the first time, Mission 3 of the Polaris program. Now, Dear Moon, they say the Dear Moon project is planned to take place in 2023. And I am skeptical. 2023 is really early to build a human-rated Starship, right? Starship hasn't even flown yet. Starship hasn't even done a static fire of all 33 engines yet. And I know SpaceX works at a breakneck speed. And I know this rocket will be capable of doing this, but how much more testing needs to be done in order for this to happen? So there's a lot of testing to be done. Elon Musk actually said the other day that Starship is super important, but also the stage 0 where Starship launches from is super important as well. So take a look at this tweet from Elon. Chris from NASA Spaceflight said, with the full stack Starship at the pad of Starbase, testing is set to get moving this next week. This was on October 16th. So this is a couple days old, but we are proceeding very carefully, says Elon. If there is a RUD on the pad, Starship progress will be set back by 6 months. 6 months of setbacks if something were to happen on the pad of a Starship launch. So, or even a testing. So something like a static fire on the pad and something goes wrong. I've been there. I know what it looks like. I know how complex and complicated these systems look. It's miles of wiring, miles of tubing, miles of things that could go wrong for Starship and could go wrong for this program. So Elon is saying, it's going to take us a little while right here. Like, this is him saying, look, we're going to take this easy. Like, this is no joke. In the Artemis program, this Starship has to be done for Artemis 3. And Artemis 3 will be the first mission to send people from the Earth to the surface of the moon since the Apollo program. So they have to use the Starship in order for people to get from the orbit of the moon down to the surface. So they're going to be launching an SLS rocket with an Orion capsule, and it's going to meet up with a Starship near the moon. And the people in the Orion capsule will leave the Orion capsule, go into the Starship, then the Starship will land on the surface of the moon. So this is kind of what it's going to look like for a Starship. They're going to be sending propellant tanks to orbit. Starship is going to go to orbit, going to fuel up. It's going to go to the surface or to the orbit of the moon right here. This is the loiter stage. They're going to transfer the crew. with the Orion capsule to the Starship, and then Starship's going to land, go back up to moon orbit, and then dock with the Orion capsule. And then with the Orion capsule, people come back down to Earth. So, super complex mission. Will they be sending people in this configuration, not the actual rocket configuration, because this is a completely different rocket than the rocket that Jared Isaacman will be using for the Polaris missions. This is sort of the crew around Earth and orbit and maybe around the moon and, you know, that kind of configuration. The interior is what I'm saying. Will the interior be the same interior as the moon interior so they can test that before the Artemis 3 missions? Let me know in the comments because that is pretty important for this. And I think they might be doing it just because they need to get it done. So this Polaris mission, mission 3, super important. Dear Moon, super important. Also, Dennis Tito is going to be in his mid to late 80s by the time he flies. Dennis, I got mad respect for you. You're a champ. If you can do that in your 80s, like my dad is 80 something, early 80s, and he can barely go bowling. So if you can fly around the moon in your 80s, that's amazing. So I got mad respect for you. Over the course of a week, the Starship and the crew will travel to the moon, fly within 200 kilometers of the moon's surface. Could you imagine that? Living your whole life? And then, you know, like in your 80s, you're like, just went to the moon. Not a big deal. Been waiting my whole life to do this. I hope Dennis gets to do it. I really do. I think it'll be an amazing, amazing flight, and it'll be groundbreaking. And also, it's going to change the course of human history if this actually happens in the time frame that they want this to happen, because people will see this as an opportunity, not just to go to low Earth orbit with something like a Crew Dragon, but also how many people could buy a flight to the moon? Back in the Apollo era, 0 people could buy a flight to the moon. You had to go through rigorous testing. You had to be probably in some armed forces of, you know, might have had to be a test pilot. You had to have like ridiculous credentials. And then you could possibly get into the astronaut program. And if you get in the astronaut program, it's a huge uphill battle to get to the Apollo, you know, one of the Apollo flights. So the people that have already been to the moon, those people have been, those are like the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? So now this opens up the door for people like you and me to be like, I got a couple $100,000 laying around, or, you know, a couple $1,000,000, 3 million, 4 million bucks laying around. I want to take a flight around the moon for whatever, 10, 20 days, whatever it is, in orbit, 200 kilometers from the moon's surface. That's insane. That's so cool. So let me know what you think. If you like this kind of video, you know, let me know in the comments. Make sure to like the video. And also, if you can, make sure to subscribe because it really helps out the channel. Helps you out too, because if YouTube sees that you subscribe to spaceflight channels, it'll recommend more spaceflight channels to you. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.